I'm Shane.
I'm Bo.
We are your Kentucky Fried Critics.
Welcome back, everybody.
We're going to kick everything off this time with a rundown of all of the socials and the many places you can find us. We forgot to really do this last time. Yeah, we're still trying to get the hang of all this, guys. We're also the kind of people where, you have to remind us that we should be telling new people that they should find us in all these places.
Yeah, because there's more than the core group, right?
Yeah. You can find us, let's start with Instagram. Instagram is going to be at Kentucky Fried Critics. It's nice and simple. Facebook is also nice and simple. It's going to be, you can just search for the page. If you really want to type in the URL, if you're that person, it's facebook.com/Kentucky Fried Critics. Because
for those purists out there.
YouTube is where it gets a little weird. You can find us if you just search Kentucky Fried Critics. You'll find us for sure. But if you're going to type in the URL because you're that person, it's going to be youtube.com/@KF Critics. Somebody had Kentucky Fried Critics. We're still working on seeing if we can try to get that once everything shuts.
Yeah, I'm still trying to promo that match.
So
I want to find those guys.
Hopefully we'll be able to get that. Then the website is going to be the last one. That's at our sponsors, our hosts here at Acast. Podcasting, so it's going to be shows.acast.com/Kentucky-Fried-Critics.
Man, you're on it with those hyphens now.
Man, it took a while to get better at that.
You practice in the mirror.
I'm telling you, I had to do some work, that's for sure. And then the last thing we'll mention is just obviously this is a podcast. If you could be listening to it at YouTube, but if not, we are found on most podcast hosting sites.
I listen on Spotify.
You can find us on Spotify, Amazon,
Google Play,
Google Podcast, which I think is turning into YouTube Podcast. I don't know. It's going to be going away soon, but it doesn't matter. I'll get us set up to wherever, if that's how you find us.
Yeah, we'll let everybody know if there's something new.
What else? I feel like we're missing one. iHeartRadio? I don't know who listens to podcasts that way.
Are we really?
We are definitely signed up on their podcast platform.
That's awesome.
I think that's everything. I mean, they're again, guys, if you search for us, at this point, most podcast platforms probably have us.
Give us a Google. You'll find something that give you a giggle.
Yeah, that's the rundown of our socials.
That's how to find everything. Let's get to our beer. Let's get to what we're drinking today. We got some Knuckles Strong Ale from Sawstone Brewing Company, our local brewing company here right in Moorhead.
That's right. I'm there. Well, maybe this year not as often as I would have liked to have been, but usually I try to be there like at least once a week, once every 2 weeks to have a drink and
it's
see
a good
the people.
place.
It is a nice place. You're nicer all the time.
Yeah, nice.
They're adding more and more seating outside and it's nice.
They have a stage now.
Yeah,
for like live bands and stuff.
It's getting real nice.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, we got a little bit of a surprise twist for everybody. It was even a surprise for us. We came in with the full intentions to do Sonic 2. Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, excuse me. We're going to talk about the movie. We should get the movie title correct.
Yeah, the movie title, right.
So the movie is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But when we got here this morning, before we start recording, because again, you guys know we don't talk about the movies before we start doing the podcast to try to keep it as
off the pure reaction
as we can. We both just kind of realized watching the movie just made us want to play games, and since we want to play games now, instead of talking about the movie, we kind of just want to talk about Sega games.
Yeah,
we'll start with Sonic and Knuckles,
obviously.
That way we can still keep our
little game going
and true to itself.
Yeah,
we'll probably more broadly just be talking about Sega in general
and how great it was,
but we will start with the Sonic franchise for sure. Before we get into the games, I do want to give one quick nod to Jim Carrey.
Yes,
it is sad that we're not doing this because this is the most Jim Carrey we've had in the last 20 years. I know that statement sounds weird, but if you play it back and listen to it, it makes sense.
Because they just let him be Jim Carrey for that movie.
Oh, I'm telling you, it was literally like watching a 90s Jim Carrey.
Yeah, it was.
It was like The Mask redone. You know what I mean? Like it was Ace Ventura all over again. Like it was that.
Yeah, just got the director's behind the camera. He's just like, all right, Jim, just kind of do stuff. And he's like, all righty then.
Yeah, so that was definitely a great live action Robotnik adaptation.
For sure. It was fantastic. I loved the stash.
Yes. Now that being said, we're just gonna.
It was a good movie. I was surprised. That's the only thing I'm gonna say about it.
Let's go ahead and just roll on into talking about
the Sonic games.
The Sonic games. Let's start with, you did own a Sega. I owned a Sega. We owned the same Sega Genesis growing up because you had it first. Your family had it first.
We had it first.
And then I moved to an area that had the Sega channel, which for anybody listening who doesn't know what that is, which is probably most people.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you lived...
The only reason I know about it is because of you.
Unless you lived in a very few select marketing places, it didn't exist. But essentially, it was on-demand gaming. So it was like Game Pass.
In like 1993.
It's something. It was nuts. It was all through a modem. You could, every month you had like 90 games at your disposal. So we moved to an area where that was something that could be had. And my parents were like, I'm going to save a fortune on renting games.
Yeah.
My dad contacted your mom and was like, hey, sis, you've got one of them Sega things, right?
I'll trade you my Super Nintendo for it. I know you like Zelda. And my mom's over like, I do like Zelda. So that's how the infamous trade happened. And I got Pilot Wings, so I was super happy about it.
We didn't get a lot of games in the trade, but I didn't
we only had like 4.
Sonic 2. You guys had Sonic 2.
We had Sonic 2, Aladdin, The Lion King, something else.
I don't know.
And there was like a racing game I think I had.
Now, that being said, I definitely played probably the entire 800 some game catalog of the Sega Genesis while I owned the Sega because of the Sega channel.
Yeah, it was nice and convenient. So was it like, did they do it like TV? Just like at 4 o'clock you get to play Sonic or...
No. So it was literally like there were 80 games and you just picked what game. Like it was in categories. You would turn it on. Right. Yeah. And you would just go through like a list. It would be like, arcade and platformers. Right. And you'd click that list and there'd be like 6.
Did you use the Sega remote to click through everything?
Yeah, it was it was all the Sega Genesis.
Nice.
So what it was is you'd take this giant modem thing, right? But it was on a Sega cartridge bottom and it plugged directly into the Sega Genesis. So every cable went into that thing.
But
it was a modem, so it had a cable, but it was some kind of early cable modem because it had coaxial.
The coaxial one
that ran into the back.
The one I could never get to screw in properly.
I remember this specifically because the coaxial cable that came with it was Sonic Blue.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was one of those that ran into the back. So it was some kind of early form of cable internet, right? It was definitely early. I say that because it was not fast. Because Sega Genesis games are not big, and it still took like minutes to load into the... But so the thing that plugged in was a modem and the smallest of hard drives that essentially was loading ROMs.
Of the game?
Just licensed by Sega themselves.
That's pretty cool. That's streaming before streaming.
And so it would load that into that hard drive until you turn the power off. And so you would just be playing the game like normal.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, every month you'd get the categories would change up. So again, like there would be some staples, like the arcade platformer that was always there because obviously that's 16-bit era gaming. You were going to play some platforming games.
Oh, yeah.
It was just...
There's 90% of them, usually.
But there'd be like a fighting game section. There'd be a... Road Rash usually got its own section because there were like 4 or 5 of those games. You know that one, the motorcycle?
The motorcycle, motocross.
Beat people up.
Yeah, and hit them with chains and stuff. Yeah, I remember that.
That would have its own section. Role-playing games would get its own section, so I played a ton. Not that the Sega Genesis was known for role-playing games.
Yeah, they didn't have
more role-playing games. Yeah, more role-playing games were on the Super Nintendo. Well, just in general. Nintendo was a big promoter for like role-playing games. That being said, there are some classics. There's going to be Phantasy Star 4, Shining Force 2. That's one of my favorites.
I've heard of it. I've never got to play it.
It's where my online moniker, Bowie710.
Nice.
It comes, Bowie is the main character, the default main character name. Like if you don't change it, if you decide not to name it yourself. I played that game so many times.
If you weren't the typical kid who's like, my name's Ass.
Well, I just played that game so many times.
Yeah.
That I stopped.
Yeah, it's like there's no reason.
I just hit the button.
Yeah, like, I want to get past this. I want to play the game.
Like, okay. Yeah. And one of the okays was...
I do that with Final Fantasy X.
Was one of the character names. So after a certain point, I got more used to seeing the main character with his default name than any name I had ever come up with. Even the very first time I played through it, and really the thing that made me love the game.
Yeah, the immersion. Where it's like, oh, I get to name my character, and it's me.
Yeah, after that though, like literally, I saw, and so now I use that character's name in all my role playing games. So literally, like Bowie is the name. Like to me, that is just that is role playing.
That's a role playing game name. Yeah. Say that 10 times fast.
That was hard. I'm glad I got it out the first time. Again, we'll be talking probably a lot of Sega in general, so we'll come back to some of these if we need to.
This is our test episode into it.
Yeah, but we do want to at least start, like we said, with Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah.
So we already established the one that Bo grew up with was Sonic 2. Did you ever play Sonic and Knuckles as a kid?
With you. You had
it. Yeah,
yes.
I did. I was going to say, I did get it. I got it for Christmas one year.
You were really good at getting the crystals.
Yeah, the Chaos Emeralds.
The Chaos Emeralds.
And the bonus levels.
Yeah.
The reason for that, anybody, any listeners out there, if you had this game, you also already know this. But Sonic and Knuckles was a game, it was one of the first or one of the only cartridges I know that did this. It opened up, right? And you could plug Sonic 3, Sonic 2, and Sonic 1 specifically into it, and you could put Knuckles into those games.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So
did we not ever do that?
I did.
I don't remember ever doing it. I was like 4, so it's fine.
But so yeah, you could plug, if you had any of those original games, you could plug it into the top and you would have them. But any other Sega Genesis game you plugged into the top would load in a randomized bonus level, the Chaos Emerald bonus level.
Oh, cool. Where you have to collect the balls.
So there were days
that's just all
where I would just plug in the other Sega cartridges I had until I mastered bonus levels. And so then when I got to them in the game, I would know that map. I would know that sphere and the layout and where things were. Dude, I got so good at that. In those type of levels, one of the things that you would regularly run into is the classic star bumper that's in Sonic, right?
Yeah, the thing that would just kick me out.
It would bounce you into one of the red spheres, and that would be the end of the game.
Me.
I got so good. I would spend so much time. This is way after. This is when I was in high school, so you would have been in middle school. So this is way after what you're talking about. But I would get just like a bored teenager not having that many other games and stuff to do. I would plug one of those cartridges in, and I got so good that I could just bounce in between the star things and bounce my way around the levels. Just
bing, 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 bing. I just like a giant pinball machine.
But yeah, so Sonic and Knuckles was a great game. It revolutionized, like I said, it was a cartridge plugging into a cartridge, which probably would have been used a lot more had the Sega Genesis not come at a time where it was almost like the end of the cartridge era.
Yeah.
Nintendo held on for a little bit.
Yeah, they were the last ones.
But yeah, so...
Oh, no, they're kind of bringing it back with all the Switch cartridges and stuff.
Well, Nintendo never wanted to let go.
No,
because the only time they've done discs twice. Right,
the GameCube. And
3 times now. There's a GameCube, Wii, and the Wii U. And of the 3 times, 2 of them they had to go weird with the discs. Like the Wii is the only one that uses like it looks like a normal disc, right? Like it looks like a CD. But the GameCube is tiny.
Yeah, I loved those.
Have you ever seen a Wii U disc?
Don't think so.
Okay, so a CD is a circular object, but it is squared on the edge is a rough edge.
Yeah.
Right? You can feel the corner.
Yeah.
Right? Wii U DVDs are rounded. They're smooth.
That's weird.
It's so strange, dude. To hold one in your hand, because you know what a DVD should feel like in your hand. Yeah. And so, like when you hold it, it just feels
like it's
awkward.
It's got a hard edge. Like if you turned it at an angle, I could probably cut myself with it.
But not this one.
Not this one. They just completely rounded the edges out. It's like, well, we don't want anybody to hurt themselves with ours.
Yeah.
I love Nintendo. They're always trying to do weird, strange gimmicks.
Look, I only had the Sega because we traded.
Yeah.
That being said, I am a Sega Genesis fanboy because I grew up with parents who bought me video game systems all the time. I am not trying to fault them. They were not the kind of people that, they weren't the parents that were like, video games are going to rot your brain.
Yeah. My mom couldn't. She played more video games than me. So there's none of that, like, you can't play video games. It's like, well, then you stop.
But my parents only bought Nintendo. No, it didn't matter what game system I asked for.
It was just Nintendo.
They bought Nintendo.
Meant video game.
I owned every Nintendo system. I've owned every Nintendo system.
The last really good one was GameCube.
Minus handheld. I've never owned a single Nintendo handheld.
You never had a Game Boy?
I never had a game. I had a Game Gear.
I remember the Game Gear. I was so excited when you showed me that because of that movie. What's it called? With the
Surf Ninjas.
Yeah, Surf Ninjas.
I had that game.
Yeah, I know.
It's a great game.
I could not get past the first level and it made me so mad.
There were scenes in that game where you could ask for hints. And the hint would literally turn into the little boy in the movie as he looked at his Game Gear until it pulled his Game Gear screen as your Game Gear screen.
Oh, trippy.
I love that movie as
I
a
do
kid.
too. I
Rob
love it.
Schneider.
Yes, Rob Schneider and what's his name?
The Ninja Turtles
Yeah,
2,
he played for Ken in Ninja Turtles 2.
which means he was also one of the turtles in Ninja Turtles 1. He was in the
Oh, was
suit.
he?
Yeah.
I did not know that one.
That's how he got the job.
Nice.
But yeah, I have a huge fondness for the Sega Genesis because it's the only system I had growing up that was not a Nintendo.
That wasn't a Nintendo.
Don't get me wrong, like the Sega Channel, having that is huge to the fondness I have for the system because I did get to play so many games.
Yeah.
But regardless, just the fact that it was the only non-Nintendo system I ever got to own. I wanted a PlayStation. I asked for a PlayStation. I got a Nintendo 60. I got a Nintendo 64.
I got the PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, again,
Because it was futuristic and fancy. It took CDs.
Well, as established, I love role-playing games. And if you were going to pick a system that had role-playing games, I promise you, the Nintendo 64, despite earlier Nintendo outings being huge role-playing game
Yeah,
machines,
the Super Nintendo's full of it.
the 64, none.
Really?
Quest 64,
Is that it?
that's it. And it's like it's a action-adventure RPG. There's no like turn-based.
Oh, so they like super leaned into the 3D and was like, well,
Yeah. No, everything about the 64. I had a Nintendo 64 since I had every Nintendo system. The Nintendo 64 was all about the 3D for everything. So there were almost no games. I want to say Paper Mario is one of the only like 2D
games
style games on that
Oh,
system.
that sucks because PlayStation still had like a lot of like Castlevania on the PlayStation.
I know.
But it's still just a platformer.
They literally put Tetris on the Nintendo 64 in a sphere. Tetrasphere.
Oh, fuck. That sounds just insanely and unnecessarily hard. I like Tetris, but that's too much.
But yeah, we need to get back to Sega.
Oh, yeah. We're dealt
We at
with
least need to try
Nintendo. We'll talk about you later.
Yeah, well, we're going to stick with our Sega. But again, I was just establishing that there is a real reason
Why you love the Sega so
Genesis,
much.
yeah. But Sonic and Knuckles, we said, it revolutionized things with the snap-on. I don't know any other game that did the snap-on.
Not for you to do anything special.
No, Game Genie and like those type of things.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a game that did
I know
like
there's like
snap-on.
a bootleg Nintendo game where you have to use another game to get it to work.
So if any fans out there know of any other game that does what Sonic and Knuckles did, where you could plug other cartridges into it, let us know. Because I honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else.
I can't either.
Now, again, I just want to go to this because you were like, Nintendo, man, they love to come up with the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That is true, I would say, post Super Nintendo world, right? If you think 64, they started trying, it had the memory card in the back. They made a disc drive that never got to the US,
all that
everything post
the Rumble Pack.
Yeah. Super Nintendo was not that though. Super Nintendo had what? The Super Nintendo controller,
The
scope,
and fuck, I think that was it, wasn't it?
This is what I'm saying. So they weren't the people that revolutionized with like crazy gimmicks at the time. Sega was. Again, I got way onto the Sega bandwagon, being someone
You were on that team. You were on the other side of the war.
So you could get, for the Sega Genesis, you could get the Sega channel itself was a modem that could plug in, but that was very specific to certain markets. You could get an actual modem that plugged in and you would plug a game into it, and then you would plug the phone line into the modem and connect to people to be able to play 2-player games.
That's fucking
Through some kind of old school dial-up connection server that Sega had set up.
Did you have that?
So I bought a lot of these things from game companies as the Sega Genesis was dying. So I owned this thing.
Nice.
I never used this thing. I owned it.
Figured it didn't work.
I owned it though.
Nice. That's good.
I plugged the game into it. I never plugged the phone line into it.
You should have. You could have played with some dude in Beijing or something.
Lord only knows what it would have been like.
You could have 2-playered Sonic 2. He could have been Tails.
In 95, there's no telling what it would have been like.
It moves at like 5 frames a second.
So what the Sega also had the Octagon. You know what the Octagon is?
Oh, the sensor thing where you can like kick and punch.
You could play fighting game. Well, you could play any game, but it was definitely designed for a fighting game. But yeah, it was literally a plastic octagon that sat around you on the floor and it had sensors that pointed directly up. And each direction of the octagon, you could throw your hands.
You just break the beams.
Would be a different, like up, down, left, right, A, B, or C.
That's pretty cool.
And start. That's 8, right? Up, down, left, right. ABC start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the octagon.
Yeah. So it's
because this was before most fighting games had like diagonals.
Yeah.
You know, like
everything was up or down, left or right.
You went up to jump and then pushed right to move over.
In good games for fighting games, you push up to jump. It's not another separate button. There's some games you get in there and you're playing and you're like, how do I?
Well, certainly.
Why am I not jumping?
Certainly in the 8-bit and 16-bit era, you should never have it be. You're wasting a block. You're wasting a button.
Yes.
To make a jump.
I can't remember what game it was, but it was infuriating because the up button was block and you'd keep accidentally hitting it and it would just mess up whatever you were trying to do. I want to jump and then you'd like crouch or something stupid.
So since obviously we can't seem to stay on Sonic and Knuckles, we'll just move past it. Since you have a smaller purview of all the Sega games, what's your favorite Sega Genesis game? Do you have one that stands out to you as like a favorite?
I do, but I don't know the name of it.
Go for it. Hopefully some fans can help us.
Somebody, please. I'm going to describe it as best I can. Somebody tell me what this game is. Me and my sister would rent it from Movie Warehouse all the time. There's like 2 brothers and you race and there's like mine carts and you got to run through like hills and mountains. And at the end of every race, if you win, the chick who looks like Daisy Duke kisses you and I get to rub it in my sister's face because she always lost.
If anyone has any idea what this is, please help Bo, because he told me and I have no clue, and I have played a lot of Sega Genesis games. Like I said, nearly the whole catalog.
Neither one of us. So every once in a while I'll be like, you remember that game? And I'm like, yes, but I have no idea what it's called.
So I have no clue.
Oh, I even went through like you can download all the Sega games. I went through like that whole list, one game at a time, looking through it, and I couldn't find nothing.
For me, it's a lot harder to nail down like a favorite Sega Genesis game, because again, I've played a lot. Now, if we can go like category by category, I could definitely nail you some like hard.
I mean, we got time.
Categories.
You want to do it?
So like a RPG, I've already said, can be Shining Force 2. That being said, there are some real gems in the RPG category that I feel like some people should check out. Maybe even you if you've not tried these. So that's going to be Breath of Fire. You ever played any of those? The third one is on PlayStation. I was going to
say, I played the one on PlayStation. I played Breath of Fire 3. I can't say it.
Where you're the
Dragoon
Ryu guy.
Yeah.
Specifically the little kid one. Is that the one you played? Where he looks like a little like 8-year-old or something.
8-year-old sprite guy. Okay.
That's why I wanted to make sure, because the main character in every Breath of Fire is always a blue-haired guy named Ryu. So I had to specify.
It's a little confusing.
And they all can turn into dragons.
At least Final Fantasy, they give you different characters.
So that's the kicker, and you are different characters. Don't get misguided here. Every Breath of Fire is a different guy named Ryu, but he is always a blue-haired guy named Ryu
who can turn into dragons.
But so yeah, Breath of Fire 2 is on Sega Genesis. I feel like it's also on the Super Nintendo, so you can play it on either. Because early Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo Wars era, very few games were specific to one system.
Yeah,
most games were on both.
I think Earthbound's on both.
No, that's a Nintendo franchise.
Oh, is it?
But yeah, early games were like,
no, this is ours. You can't have it.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Most of the time you'd find games
sometimes
that were
even
just
like sports games wouldn't even cross over. It's like, no, you can have soccer. We get football.
It's not even that. With sports games, it became whenever it was a specific celebrities sports games. Those would be on specific systems.
Yeah.
No, what I was saying is that back then it was different than today, because back then most games, almost every game was on both systems. Very few games were on like
just an exclusive one.
Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo shared massive amounts of games. Although now that I think about it, maybe not. I don't know which one it would come out, because today is kind of the same too.
They kind of switch things up. Yeah. They'll have like one or two, like, this is ours. You can't mess with this franchise. Like Halo and...
But so back to what I was saying, though. There are a lot of role-playing games that I would... Breath of Fire is definitely one. It's on both, though, so that one's a little bit cheating. Phantasy Star is the series that is a Sega Genesis specific. So, like, my favorite, like I said, is Shining Force 2. That is a tactical style role-playing game. You know, like where you're top down. Yeah. Top down, you're moving around the map. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's not your thing...
I love those games.
I do, too. It's inspired by that one.
Yeah.
But if those aren't your type of role-playing game, then you should try Phantasy Star. Those games there are 4 of them on the Sega Genesis. They have also been like Phantasy Star Universe it's like the newest version of the same thing. It's like it was an MMORPG, I think.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, Phantasy Star is like the big franchise.
It's their Final Fantasy.
Yeah, if you will. Again, much like Breath of Fire, though, there is always a main character who is a female named Elise. There's usually, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's just certain character. It's
We
one
like
of those.
to keep this
It's a
name.
thing. Well, but in that one, you find out when you play the 4th one, it is specifically that it is cyclical. The 4th one sets up this whole thing where this is a bad guy. This is the game I brought up during Night of the Comet.
Oh, is it?
It's the one that's got the comet.
With the comet that
and so that
comes?
4th game with the comet
Cool, we can talk about this.
is explaining to you why there is this
This whole cycle that goes on.
and it is a cycle that has touched the first 3 games.
Nice.
So it is the 4th one is just the one that like wraps up the story by giving you this cyclical like people are being reborn.
Final Fantasy does it too. There's always like a Cecil and a Wade.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy does have a few characters. These games, it's like your whole main cast is almost
It's
always the same
people.
Yeah.
That's fun.
But it's not the same people. Again, that's why I keep you keep saying that. I want to make sure we're very clear here.
It's not the same character.
Well, they don't look the same. They're not the same. In Phantasy Star 1, your main character that's named is Elise is literally like a tiger chick. Like she's got a tail and stuff, man. In Phantasy Star 4,
Chitara.
Your main character is named Elise, but she is not a tiger girl, and she is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they are drastically not the same people. They just have the same names.
Saves you having to come up with new character names.
But like I want to say in 4, like it's literally like her. It's literally like first and last name, like it's the same.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's crazy. That being said, if you are gonna try to get into some old role playing games, and you hear me say this, Phantasy Star, do not play 3.
What's wrong with 3?
3 has this really crazy mechanic where it's like after a certain amount of time, the team you're playing with die or they don't die, but they just like skip a generation and you go to their kids. And so it's up to you to decide like who might partner up. So like every time you play through might be completely like your final team might be way different than your first team because it all depends on the progeny that you decide to have.
So you have
along the way,
you got to make your teammates hook up so they can make good offspring for you later down the road. That's super weird.
Yeah. So like I said, avoid the 3rd one.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and skip that one.
1, 2, and 4.
Yeah.
All amazing games. I don't know who decided to make 3. It's really crazy. Those are very classic RPG. Like it's a weird animal people hybrids and robots and space and
Final Fantasy 9 style.
Yeah, it's got a lot of
weird.
It's a good franchise.
Cool. I want to get a Sega. It's like my next because
I love them. I can't speak highly enough of them.
Well, I've been starting to collect like Nintendo games and stuff, but like they seem to be easier to find than Sega stuff. Like I can't find a working Sega.
Oh, an actual
like
Sega
an actual one.
Ooh, no, I'd imagine.
Yeah, they're hard to find. But I see Super Nintendos everywhere. 8 Super Nintendos up on the wall. And they're all yellow. Why do they all turn yellow?
It was the weird plastic. That's why the Genesis is so sought after, man.
Right,
black. It looks sleek
black,
and perfect forever.
Nice. You just kind of little armor all behind it up. I want to get an original Sega, but I've been playing on the Retron 2 HD, which is super nice because they fixed the lag thing.
So yeah, so for anybody, I do know what a Retron is, but just in case anybody is, well, just in case. Again, we automatically assume that our fan base is exactly
just a
like
bunch
us,
of nerds like us.
but they could not have they could have different overlapping fan bases, so they might not be in this fan base. So just
Retron 2 is a nice nifty emulator machine.
Well, the Retron in general, the company, they make different.
It will play Nintendo and Super Nintendo.
Yeah, so I was gonna say the 2 does that. But they've got like a 3, 4, 5.
But they get progressively more expensive,
and they play more and more systems, right? Like that's the thing. Like when you get the 5, it still does Sega and Super Nintendo, but it also does.
There's like Ataris, all the Japanese systems, and all that stuff. But it's like $200 and something bucks. But
you might as well be buying a brand new system.
Yeah, but like the The 2 wasn't that bad. It was like 80,
That's not bad.
right? And it's HD. It plugs into your
HDMI cable.
yeah, and they fixed the lag with the
so
button.
it auto does everything.
Yeah, so like I don't have any problem. You know, you'd sit there and you'd have the button, and then it would delay on the TV if you didn't have a special thing. I think they fixed it because I'm not having any problems playing any of my Super Nintendo games. But the one, I don't know what it's called. There's one that does play the Sega games, but it's way more expensive. It's like $150, and I don't understand why.
So yours doesn't play Sega?
No, it just plays Nintendo and Super Nintendo.
That's
which is what I grew up on.
Yeah.
Because that's what I got for the trade.
I played plenty of those.
Yeah, I got your Pilot Wings, and you had like 3 baseball games for some reason.
My dad loved baseball games.
Is that why?
Yeah, he didn't
so
play
many
them.
of them.
He didn't play them.
He just liked them.
Collected them essentially.
I just like to have them.
Because especially back then, a sports game, a baseball game in general, specifically.
Much to it.
Well, there wasn't much to it, and they were fucking hard.
Yeah,
dude.
they were.
Computers were challenging, dude.
I could never do anything. I was on
Trying
to Major League Baseball or something like that.
I know which one you're talking. I already know because I played a lot of it.
Could you ever
before we switched?
Could you ever hit the ball? I could never.
Oh, I hit the ball. I got pretty good. I could never win though. To pull us back to a little bit of Sega, or this is really one of those games that like bridges the gap. I never liked sports games. I still don't like sports games, but especially like back then, because again, like we said, they were pretty simplistic.
Yeah,
right. Like I mean, you played a football game, you picked a play from a playbook,
and then
you hoped that you could follow it because everybody else was going to do exactly what you hit on that playbook. Yeah, so I was never a big fan. But there were some like weird futuristic ones or like the Monster League ones. Have you ever seen any of these?
No.
So like in the like I want to say it's like Baseball 9000 or something like it's a really hokey name. I don't know if that one's on both systems. The Monster League one or Mutant League ones are definitely on both systems. But so like the futuristic one, literally like you'd play baseball, right? But you could get pitches where it was like rocket pitch or like, like crazy, like special, like game power up effects.
Yeah, power up ones.
If you were going to
explode the batter.
In the Mutant League one, you could do stuff like in the football, like you could literally knock someone's head off. And then their head would go rolling on the field.
Nice.
It was so much fun. You could knock people into like football field would have like holes in the ground and you could knock people straight through them. It was great. So
I missed out on those sports games. Those were
the only kind of those and like NBA Jam.
Yeah, I played that one.
That again,
where you could like set
on
the ball,
fire.
Yeah, the ball would catch on fire and
boom, shakalaka.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I played that one. You got to make sports games more fun.
Those were great. Yeah, dude, where you put codes in and turn into crazy special people.
If I wanted to just play sports, I would go outside and
actually play
them, right?
If I'm playing a video game, I want it to be a video game. Give me power up. Yeah. Let the ball catch on fire. Let me knock somebody's head off.
I have poison touch, stuff like that.
Because it's a video game. Yeah. And let me be in a video game.
If I go try and play in real life, if I even like tap somebody with my elbow, everybody gets mad. Oh, you're playing too rough. I didn't have a lot of friends.
I think we've already established I had the Sega channel and I spent a lot of time inside playing the Sega. There's a reason why it's my favorite system.
Yeah.
It was my friend.
Yeah, the Sega was your friend. Super Nintendo was my friend. What is your favorite Sonic game?
My favorite Sonic game?
Yeah.
Sonic 3.
Is it why? I don't think I ever played that one. I played 1 and 2.
Sonic 3 introduced a lot of the power-ups that were still... So, like, Sonic and Knuckles is essentially just, like, Sonic 3.5.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is a different game, but it is, like, some of the same levels. It is some of the same, like, sprites and, like,
well, 1 and 2
things.
did that, too.
But they just added the knuckle climbing mechanic for Knuckles, right? So Sonic 3, though, like, I loved it. So, again, having the Sega channel, like, that being a thing when I had it when that game came out. So having the Sega channel was one of those things where you got to try games. I got to beta test games before they come out.
Ooh, cool.
Through the Sega channel. Like that. So one of the categories, like I was saying, like arcade platformer, one of them would just be like unreleased. right? And so you would just be beta testing unreleased games. So I beta test Golden Axe 4 before it was released.
Those games.
I beta tested Adam's Family Fester's Quest. We're getting real
On the Sega?
Yeah, we're getting real.
Wasn't that already on the NES like a few years before that?
I have no, probably not. It probably came out on Sega first, and then they made a Nintendo port. Because the Nintendo stayed relevant way longer than it should have, because they would make downgraded ports of Super Nintendo and Sega games.
Yeah, there's a really crappy version of King's Quest V on the NES.
One of the things I definitely played was Sonic 3, like early stages and different things like that. And so, like, you can't like the Sega Genesis and not like Sonic. He's the mascot. He's the
thing that made people go
fast creature.
Yeah.
Wears the special shoes, those red shoes, like you can recognize them from anywhere.
And he's cool. He's got like an attitude on like
compared to Mario.
If you just leave him standing there, he'll get all cross his arms, start tapping his foot like, come on, man, we got shit to do.
Well, that's what Sega Genesis was all about.
Yeah.
They were like Nintendo was they thought they were established and they didn't have to prove themselves.
Yeah.
And so they kind of became like, pardon this extra nerdy analogy, but they became like the IBM. They became the stuffy old men of the video game world. IBM was the stuffy old men in the computer world. You wanted to be like Intel, or you wanted to be, like Microsoft. You wanted to be somebody that was young and cutting edge. You didn't want to be the old.
We're the gritty underdogs.
Yeah, and Sega was that.
Punk rock.
Yeah. Sega does what Nintendon't.
That's right. I remember those commercials, and they're just throwing the Nintendo in the toy box.
Yeah.
Those are baby toys.
Yeah, dude.
There was a full-on war back in the day. Like, I saw kids getting fist fights over Nintendo or Sega.
I lost what I was talking about.
Your favorite Sega game or Sonic game?
Oh,
was Sonic 3.
Sonic 3. Sorry.
It was a really big can, you guys. When you go to the brew house, it's a really big can if you take it home.
It's a crowler. It's a 32 ounce.
Yeah.
It's the same as if we both had a pint. We are definitely a little bit further into them than we normally would be. This we're far into the podcast. So again, as you can already tell, we are just testing this out. We're trying to talk about a topic. We're seeing if this is something we do, we want to do. If you guys like it, if we like it, it's
there's no research here. We didn't plan any.
No, this is all off the cuff. This is knowledge that we both have. So if you hear us dropping some kind of random piece of knowledge that
it's wrong, correct me. I don't care.
Because right now we're just going off the dome. Next time we decide to do a topic, we probably will do some kind of research. But again, this was last minute. We're keeping it real for you guys. Yeah. We just felt like this was more what we wanted to talk about with video games. Because watching the movie definitely just
made me want to play Sega.
Made you nostalgic.
So bad
for
fucking Sega, right?
And the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s.
In general, like that movie, it felt very 90s, so it just gives you this vibe of like,
especially the way they had Sonic with the him having the attitude.
Yeah, stuff. So again, like I understand how we just want to live this version of Sonic. Sonic 3, just to get back to it, brought in. But yeah, Sonic 3, the reason it is my favorite is because it brought in some of the craziest power-ups that you ever saw in a Sonic. Like, like the first one and the second one, you could run faster with the boots.
The boots.
And the blue shield, where you could take 1 damage from anything and be okay and not lose any rings.
The sparkle
and then Sparkle,
thing,
where again, you would just
kill stuff.
Yeah, it would kill things too, exactly. Like you were immune and you could kill things. There's a star power.
Yeah.
From Mario, right?
Pretty much, that's all it was.
It
lasted like 10 seconds.
But so when you get to 3, you start getting stuff like the fire shield. And the fire shield lets you, it wraps you in fire, so that way if there's any of those enemies that shoot the fire out,
it just dissipates it.
You're fine, you don't get hurt by it. But on top of that, if you double tap the jump button, so you jump in the air, when you're in the air, if you jump again, you dash out, like it shoots you like a fireball.
Nice.
Right? Then you also get a lightning shield, right? So
do the same thing.
It gives you, if you tap the button twice, you get an extra boost up. So you get like a double jump. Yeah.
That's cool. Does they give you the lightning effect when you do it?
It drops, so in Sonic style, it drops weird balls underneath you, like lightning balls, and then pushes you up from those. Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Propulsion. The lightning shield also has the added bonus of being a magnet to rings. So you don't have to actually touch them. It just brings them in towards you.
I hit that.
So you could run through the map, right? And like literally have like a line of like 30 rings behind you until you finally stop, and then they would just all go.
I want to go look up a video of that. I want to see it.
It's fun.
I want to see all the rings just going.
It's fun. Oh, water. We forgot the water is in all of them, but the water adds a
I hate
the
bubble
levels. The bubble, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
In all the regular water levels, the bubble just lets you breathe underwater. If you don't have it, you have to find the little
bloop.
So that way you can survive and you don't hear the countdown.
The frantic music.
In the third one, the water adds the effect of if you hit the double jump button, then it will bounce you down and bounce. Like you'll do like a Mario ground pound, but when you get to the ground, you bounce up because you're in a bouncy bubble. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And then the game also, the last thing, like, so everything else is the same. The last added bonus they gave you in 3, which again, this all held over to Sonic and Knuckles, was that if you had no power up and you hit the jump button twice, you would have a half-second shield that would go around Sonic when he's in his spin dash circle. So that way, if you were like, if you were about to hit wall spikes, if you hit the button at the right time,
save yourself,
you would
and just bounce
and not
off
have any rings lost.
Nice. Oh, that explains why that dude in that clip was able to hit those rings. I'm not gonna lie. After I watched the movie, I was like, I'm gonna go watch some dudes play some Sonic because I don't have it. So I went and watched him play Sonic and Knuckles for a little while, and he kept hitting rings. Or not rings, but spikes. And I'm like, why isn't he losing any rings?
Now you know. He was probably hit last second hitting the dash.
Yeah, because he was super good at the game. He breezed through like the whole game in like 38 minutes.
So, and then, you know, like, so Sonic games were always like that. You know, like, unlike Mario, where they basically like reinvent the franchise every so many games, except for recently, where they just kept it going for a long time with that, like, 2D new Super Mario style. Sonic would, generally speaking, always be the same, but just add one new mechanic
or character,
right? And so when you got to Sonic and Knuckles, it was that they added a character / mechanic, right? You could choose to play the game as Sonic or choose to play the game as Knuckles. It was the same game with either one, but you could just go different paths and do different routes, because Sonic would run fast and Knuckles could punch his way into walls and climb directly up them. So you would take different paths to get to the same end goal.
Could you find was there stuff you could find only with Knuckles and only with Sonic?
Probably.
You didn't look that far into it?
Probably. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Probably.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, Sonic 3, I loved. I remember before it came out, I bought the game book. Like, I had one of those. Like,
oh wow.
Again, this is 93. This is or 94. This is before like that's a thing. Like nowadays, like everybody has like the Proxima special edition Skyrim walkthrough book, and they display them, and you know, like
the huge pull-out map shows you where everything is.
This was one of those. For Sonic, like when I tell you every page was like the thick, glossy, like card stock, every page of this thick book. It was a full walkthrough of Sonic 3.
Every single secret.
Every clue, every hidden whatever.
Cheat codes? Any cool cheat codes?
No, because it wasn't that kind of book.
I like cheat codes.
I mean, I'm not saying
Were there any?
I don't think so. Not for Sonic.
It wasn't the kind of game. The kind of game where there would be any. If it is, it's like
if it had anything,
no damage.
If it had anything, it was like the hidden sound test. Do you remember when games used to do that?
Oh, where
you'd put in a code and you could hear every single sound effect.
Yeah,
that would be the only thing. Like Sonic was pretty like Sega held it close to their heart. And they didn't
mess with things like that.
Yeah,
well, good for them. My favorite Sonic game was Sonic Pinball.
Sonic Spinball.
Spinball? I'm so sorry. But yeah, I liked that one. That's the one I played the most. I think I broke it. I played it so much, actually.
Man, that is dedication.
I remember because I was sitting and I was playing it, and it started to the screen started to like fizzle and stuff. So I was sitting there and I went and I turned it off and on, and when I turned it back on, it was just a black screen. So I went to pull it out and it was hot. So I think I melted something inside the cartridge. I had played it so much. Yeah,
man. Look, I played a lot of games a lot, and I don't know if I ever did anything quite that crazy. I would play, throwing it back to Shining Force 2, it'd be my favorite. So I got introduced to that one on the Sega channel.
Yeah.
But then I played that one so much, I had to get my own copy. Because again, the thing about the Sega channel is it's great. Your saves would stay there the whole month, right?
Nice.
But only for a month.
Only for a month?
So if you were playing a game that you didn't start until the end of the month, even if they brought the game back for the next month, the save wouldn't be there for the next month.
So you'd have to start over. That's very frustrating.
And now, again, I beat that game the first playthrough in a month. But it meant from then on that if I wanted to play it and take my time, if I didn't start it by a certain time in the month, that I would A, either lose my file, or B, the game wouldn't be there the next month because maybe RPG wasn't one of the categories for March.
Got traded out for something else.
And so
it's action platformer week.
So at a certain point, I was like, I have to get my own copy of Shining Force 2. And so I did. I found a copy of it like used at Funko Land to throw back a name drop.
We never have one of those here.
You saw them in all the game magazines, right?
Funko Heard about them my whole life. Land. Oh, Funko Land is this magical place where video games live.
Yeah. It was a magical place where video games live.
We had Walmart.
So Funko Land definitely had a used copy for me.
So if it wasn't like one of the like top 5 like popular games.
Yeah, well, you never got a used copy. You couldn't get a cheap copy.
Yeah, you weren't getting a used copy either. Yeah.
So that was the thing. Like Funko Land, I was able to get a nice affordable copy of Shining Force 2, right? The battery died.
Oh no.
Maybe 6 months in. So like I got to play a good couple of times and like find some new things that I never had the time to really look for when I played it on the Sega channel.
Like you can change the battery, but like all your shit's gonna be gone when you do, right?
Yeah, but I was definitely at an age where I didn't realize I could just change the battery, and nobody in my house was savvy enough with technology to know you could just change the battery. I know that now.
For some reason my mom did.
Oh, because I'm sure. Well, your mom was way into like
one of the Zeldas.
Well, and she was way into early internet, so like she was probably on some message board, and somebody was like, "Yeah," because like pop it open.
We were having the Zelda. Every time you'd put it in, your save file would be gone, and Mom's like, "Oh, I bet the battery's dead." She just opened it up, and it's a little watch battery.
Yeah, that's all it is a watch battery. And I did at some point go back and do this surgery to my cartridge, but there were definitely several years
where you just didn't turn the console off,
where I would turn it on to play Shining Force 2 and would leave it on from start to end, and it's not a quick by today's standards. I would say it's a quick game.
Yeah, but back then.
But by yesteryear standards, it's the kind of game that if I turned it on a Friday getting home from school, I'd be lucky if I could beat it by Sunday night going back in. And that's literally like me not leaving. Yeah,
you're pissing in bottles and hiding them in your room.
I'm not watching TV. I'm not doing anything else. I'm barely speaking to anybody or eating. I am just playing the game to beat it in that weekend.
I remember we used to do shit like that.
I mean, I still try to. Games today just can't do that.
Right.
You can only do that if you want to play an old game.
There isn't 80 hours in the day for me to try and just power through this freaking game.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you melted a game. I never did anything. But that was the first game that, I did eventually find out that you could just change the batteries. So it was the first game I ever, Frankensteined open to do that too. Don't get me wrong, I Frankensteined a lot of things open as a kid. I was that kind of kid. Like I would, Tiger handheld video games and things like that. Like I would take those things apart left and right. When I was 18 and I finally was like, oh, look, I'm probably never going to pull my game gear out again. And it was pretty, at that point it was pretty beat up and it lived its life. It done its duty.
Yeah.
And done what it needed to.
Didn't have a high resale value.
I took that thing apart to find out what the guts inside looked like.
What they look like? Were they cool?
No, way more simplistic than you would expect from a system that was doing full color handheld.
Really?
In 92. Yeah.
There's a bunch of empty space. Didn't need
Oh, dude. Well, did
it not need to be that big?
No, it did need to be that big.
Oh, okay.
For batteries.
Oh, just the batteries?
That thing ran on
it was 8 D cells, wasn't it?
No, it was AA, but it was 8 or 9 or it was literally so your left hand had a bunch of fucking batteries in it and your right hand had a bunch of batteries underneath the hand. So it had like a double stack of a ton of batteries in it. So it weighed a lot. Battery weight. Like if you took the batteries out of that thing, it was a glorified paperweight. It didn't weigh nothing, dude. Nice. It was just enough to hold paper down. So again, talking Sega, talking Game Gear, since we brought that up again, and we were saying, like I said, Sega was the innovators, right? Like before Nintendo was the innovator in the game world,
bringing up like the
it
Wii
was Sega,
sticks.
and so the Game Gear had all kinds of crazy innovations. It had different games and this and that.
You could watch TV on it.
You could buy a plug-in that you could watch. Because again, this is the era of bunny ears and like antenna TV, like video pickup stations. You could buy a cartridge that plugged into the back of this thing that just had a giant antenna, and you could pull the antenna out and then watch your local news. Watch whatever station you could pick up. And now, of course, I had this thing, and at 9-year-old Shane did not understand why my parents were like, we're not buying that for you. Because I was like, that would be the perfect thing for car trips. And they're trying to explain to me, like, it would never work in a car.
Yeah.
Like, it might, but you're not going to like it. Because as soon as you find something you want to watch, it's going to go away.
You're going to lose that signal real quick.
But, like, at 9, you barely understand that. You don't care. I was just like, I just want this thing. The only reason we didn't get it, because, again, like I said, my parents weren't the kind of parents that were like, I'm not going to buy your game stuff. They were like, okay, sure, whatever.
He'll learn that it's stupid.
Well, again, like, Dad had whatever toys he was in. Toys change for generations. Like, you can't expect your kid to play with what you played with. That's just not the real world, right? And so they were just like, video games is the thing. The only reason I did not have this Game Gear thing is because you could only, by the time I saw it and knew that it existed, you could only buy them at Funko Land. We did not have a Funko Land close to us, but we had one close enough to us that it was worthwhile to use the mail-in thing that used to be in the video game magazines to order something. So when I got the game, I got it through order, mail-in. Mom and Dad were like, look, it was one thing for like a $20 used Sega game.
Right, but not this.
We're not mailing hundreds of dollars for this attachment.
No way.
To a Funko Land. Like I'm trying to explain to them, like, no, it's a legitimate business. And they're like,
still,
Funko Land is a legitimate. They're advertising to you from a magazine for video game. You can just hear like every 30-year-old adult in the 90s talking to a child like that, like in a magazine.
You need to come to the conclusion that you are stupid so we can move on.
Right. Now, that being said, these are also the same people that paid for
talk to us.
These are the same people who paid for me to have a subscription to Nickelodeon magazine. Does anybody remember that?
I
Nickelodeon
do.
magazine?
I got a couple of those.
Oh, they paid for us to have like a year subscription to that shit, dude.
Lucky. I love
back when it was still the full magazine. Because you remember, like, at a certain point, they turned into like the Reader's Digest style size book. But when it started, it was like a full magazine. We got a full year subscription when it was a magazine.
Yeah, I got a couple one time. It was pretty cool. One of them had a recipe for slime cake. We made it.
Nice.
It's just green food coloring.
It works.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. And it oozes like slime does. What is a game that you always wanted to play on Sega, but you never got to?
I think that's more of a question for you. Again, I would point out...
There's got to be one.
No.
Really?
Okay, now we're going to get into Shane's going to talk about his not so legal computer video gaming, right? Like, so... I, again, already played almost the entire Sega Genesis catalog through the Sega channel in the almost 2 years that I had it, right? But on top of that, by the time I was like 15, 16, 17, since I was such a huge Sega fan, I did go back and I have emulated there's not a single Sega Genesis game. I mean, I've not played it on original hardware maybe, but there's not a Sega Genesis game. There are plenty of people out there who don't dabble in the realm of emulation themselves and on the computers, who definitely don't know how easy it is to go back and play the old school catalog. I would say at this point in my life, I don't know if there's a Nintendo game, Super Nintendo game, or Sega Genesis game that I've not played at least 5 minutes of.
I love Contra. That's my favorite game from when I was a kid. So it's basically Rambo, right? In video game form. You can't tell me that that's not supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
It's a Konami code, man.
Yeah.
Up, down, left, right, BA star. You gotta finish it. You can't.
You can't just do half of it.
That is a game that's also on Sega. Sega has their own.
Yeah, they have Contra games. It's like Contra Hardcore, right? Never got to play that one.
Not to be confused with what was the one on the Super Nintendo? The one that you got in the trade. You know the one I'm talking about. The weird top down. It's like Smash TV style gameplay, right? Like, but it was definitely like Contra, right? Or not Contra, but it was.
I can't remember what it was called, but I did not like playing that.
No, that game was hard.
It would. Because I was used to games being, like 2D, right? And this one tried to do this weird top angle, and I'm like 5, so I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I didn't play that one very much, but I liked the original Contra, and there was some fighter pilot game. Like, it wasn't Ace Combat, or it might have been
Afterburner.
Yeah, it was a silver
Afterburner
thing. I liked that one. That one was super fun.
Now we're on Nintendo, man. I need you to think about with some Sega. So, are there any Sega games you wished you could have played as a kid? Like, again, we've established that we are the kind of people you might have played it finally as an adult, but you wish you could have played first time run as a kid.
I was always so, not pissed, but like jealous, because there was a kid in my class and he had like the Shinobi games for Sega, and they always looked so cool with the ninja and stuff, and I never got to freaking play them. I still haven't, I don't think. Those were ones I always wanted to play, was Shinobi, and there's something else. Was Killer Instinct just on Super Nintendo?
I think it was one of those on both.
It was on both?
Most fighting games were on both. There weren't.
Yeah, because I didn't like Mortal Kombat on the Sega. Not enough buttons on the controller.
Oh, you just needed a Pro controller.
I didn't have one.
I know. I'm just telling you.
I had the stock standard one with the 3 buttons. So
Sega was technically the better way to play it, because I want to say Sega was the one that had blood.
That's what everybody kept saying, but
because again, they were the edgy system.
Yeah, I was 5 too, so I'm over here. I'm like, I don't like that there's not enough buttons. And they're all in a line. I don't like that.
Yeah, what was it for the Sega, right? You'd have to hit the start button.
Yeah, start or select or something. To switch between
punch and kick, right?
Yeah, it was stupid.
So it was all punch buttons, and you hit start, and then it would be all kick buttons, right?
Yeah, it was something stupid like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The Sega Genesis, unless you had a Pro controller, was not the place to play a fighting game.
Yeah, the first time I saw a Pro controller was the one you had with the 6 buttons on it.
It was the way if you had that.
Didn't improve my Mortal Kombat any.
If you had, well, I mean, look, I'm going to say, if you had that type of controller, it would definitely be the kind of thing that would make fighting games doable, right? I'm not going to deny, though, the Super Nintendo controller was way better for a fighting game.
Yes.
Because the L and R buttons being blocked just naturally feels right.
Yes.
So that was
up is jump.
So that was the problem with the Sega Genesis, is like when they made the Pro controller, you would have the right number of buttons, the same number, so you'd have exactly what the Super Nintendo had, right? You'd have enough for high, low kicks of everything, and then 2 block buttons. But the problem was they were all on face buttons and no shoulder buttons, and so like those shoulder buttons just feel they feel good. You know what I mean? Like the first time you ever play a game where the shoulder button is your block button,
yeah.
You're just like, oh no, that just instinctually
so much
instinctually feels right. I mean, the gameplay just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting a button that is your kick button and then immediately having to hold down the button beside it is weird.
Yeah.
Being able to like immediately go into block because you're holding it down already
means your finger's already up there.
Perfect. So like I said, I'm a Sega fanboy, but I'm not going to pretend like they were the best or they were perfect.
Did you have any of the attachments? The 32 or the Sega CD?
I had the 32X.
You had the 32X? Did it do any cooler stuff? No. Just totally wasn't worth it.
Just a big giant thing to plug in.
The big
I already had
big mushroom.
So that's the joke about the Sega, right? Is that you could Sega Genesis in its final form. You could just plug all these
morphed into a transformer.
Keep plugging different things into it. You could have the Sega CD attachment and then put the 32X on top of it, and then no joke. If you had a Sega Genesis and you had a couple of things, you would have to do this type of thing. You would always be like, what kind of crazy tower could I did this as a child.
How far should I stack
What kind of tower can I build? So my tower was you start with a 32X. You have to, because it's
got a wide base.
It's a big wide base. So like if you're gonna plug other things on top, you want to start with that.
Oh yeah,
and you could still plug regular cartridges into it because they wanted you to be able to put it in and then still be able to do both.
Yeah,
right. Like, you don't have to constantly unplug, right?
Yeah, cross compatible.
So I would plug the 32X in. I would plug Sonic and Knuckles in. I would plug my Sega channel in. Granted, you couldn't play that.
I'm
It
sure.
doesn't do anything.
You're just trying
because
to build
the Sega channel,
the tower.
Yeah, the Sega channel wouldn't register in Sonic and Knuckles, so you couldn't do anything. Well, all right, guys. I want to say I think that maybe the personalized Sega Tower of Power is a good place to wrap everything up here.
Did it fall?
No, it could definitely hold that its own weight. I made sure when I put it together that it was structurally sound. Again, like I said, I started with a 32X, right?
Yeah, you got to have a strong base.
Sonic and Knuckles could support an amazing amount of weight. Now, technically, putting that Sega channel thing at the top was risky because it did have a lot of top. It was top heavy because it was just like this much. It was like a small amount of width that would be exactly like a Sega cartridge, and then giant fat modem brick thing on top.
Nice.
And so, but that also made
that's why I was wondering if it had fell because I was like a big mushroom on the top.
No, that thing was actually really nice. The weight was really centered on it good, so you could put it on top, and it gave a really nice look for the top of the tower.
it's the neck and head of the robot that you were building.
Well, all right though.
Yeah, I think we might be done. This beer's a little
the beer is
a little stronger than they said it is.
Kudos to Sawstone again, our local brewery. Ale. They definitely made a good one. It's been good. It's carried us through this interesting journey that we're going on.
This weird episode.
Everybody, you're gonna have to let us know if you like this, if you didn't like this, if it seems like something you want more of or not. If you didn't like it, again, we can shift back to.
Yeah, we were just trying to do something
like we promised. We promised you it wouldn't
just be movies,
and so we're giving this a real test. We've slightly tested it in some of the previous episodes with just like sections where we kind of go off the rails and just talk about it.
This one was completely off the rails.
But we just were in the kind of mood where we were both like, just
talk about video games.
So we kind of went for it. And we hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Had fun.
If you did, let us know. You know where all the comment stuff is. We got to do the beer for next week too.
Don't forget though, the whole month next month, right?
Yeah,
we're about to kick off.
Whole month.
Yeah, so
next month will be movies because we're doing Halloween.
We're doing spooky.
We're doing spooky, spoops, scary, all that stuff. Monsters and creepy ghoulies.
Horror movies. Whatever you want to call there's a lot of genres inside the realm of scary things.
Thriller? Would you accept a thriller
maybe
as a Halloween movie?
Maybe. Depends on the thriller. That's maybe a case by case basis
thriller,
for that
maybe.
One. Yeah. That's
somebody has to die, right?
For sure.
All right. But yeah, get ready for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Our first beer for that one is going to be Shipyard's Pumpkinhead Ale. Play along with us on Instagram. Make your guesses. Put them in the comment sections on our YouTube videos. What could we be doing with Pumpkinhead Ale next time?
Guess. And like we said, it will be a movie.
Yes.
No surprise curveballs thrown at you with us just dropping a completely new topic like we did today. Sorry anybody who guessed. There were guesses for Sonic and Knuckles.
Did you see? I
mean, not Sonic and Knuckles, but there were people that were just like
making really good guesses.
Sonic. Well, there's some people said Sonic. Yeah.
I saw one guy, he made one that said Fight Club. I was like, oh, that's actually really good. We probably should have done that one.
I don't know about just like Knuckles being the... it is good, but it's a little... I get it. Yeah, I get it. Well, all right, guys. So I think we're done. I guess that's it. We're out.
Nintendo's better.
We owned the same Sega Genesis.